Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're diving straight into decoding a seriously fascinating blueprint from our source material. This analysis suggests Tesla is, well, they're not just a car manufacturer anymore. The claim here is that they're rapidly hurtling toward a massive, simultaneous tipping point. We're talking a total convergence of artificial intelligence, global logistics, and robotics into one giant interconnected ecosystem. Which leads to this big, focal question right from the source video. Are the floodgates about to open? It's a heavy question, for sure. But today, we're going to put aside the hype and just look at the objective data. We're doing a structured breakdown to see exactly what's supposedly happening behind the curtain and why the source argues most people simply do not see this 2026 blueprint coming. To make sense of all this, the analysis breaks the roadmap down into 4 distinct jigsaw pieces. First up, the FSD data flywheel. Second, the passenger fleet. Third, the semi-truck math. And finally, the 2026 catalyst roadmap. Okay, let's jump right into part 1, the FSD data flywheel, feeding the neural net. Because, before we even look at the physical vehicles themselves, we absolutely have to understand this invisible software foundation that's constantly gathering data in the background. And here is a staggering milestone reported in the source. The global fleet has officially blown past 10 billion full self-driving, or FSD, miles. Now, you might be wondering, why focus on that specific number? Well, it represents the critical mass of data you absolutely need to train these neural nets with any real reliability. It's basically the threshold where the software graduates from just learning the basic rules of the road to actually mastering the completely unpredictable chaos of the real world. To really put that 10 billion miles into perspective, that is literally the equivalent of driving 400,000 laps around the Earth's equator. I mean, wow. And this creates what's known as a compounding flywheel effect. Every single day, this fleet captures tens of millions of miles of those super weird edge cases. Erratic drivers, sudden bad weather, giant unseen potholes, the whole shebang. All that data feeds straight back into the system to improve the code. It builds this localized intelligence advantage that's frankly incredibly difficult for any competitor to just copy. Right, so that invisible software foundation brings us nicely to part 2, the passenger fleet, focusing on robo-taxis and cybercabs. Let's look at how this tech is actually hitting the physical streets right now. Okay, so look at this tracker data. It shows an actively expanding fleet of robo-taxis on the ground in Texas right this second. Out of 663 total tracked vehicles, here is the absolute vital takeaway. 32 of them are operating truly unsupervised, as in no human safety rider sitting there ready to grab the wheel. Real users are summoning these cars via an app for actual trips across Austin, Dallas, and Houston. Sure, it's a controlled rollout right now, but it represents a massive, massive leap from theoretical testing to tangible, everyday operations. Of course, to expand a network like that, you need massive hardware scale. The source outlines the aggressive production ramp-up for the purpose-built Cybercab, starting right at Giga Texas, hitting hundreds of units per week. From there, the plan is to scale aggressively for high-volume manufacturing. Remember, this vehicle is radically simpler. It's stripped down and built from the ground up purely for mass assembly. Ultimately, the analysis says the endgame targets a global capacity of roughly 2 million Cybercabs a year. Break that down, and it means over 5,500 vehicles rolling off the line every single day. And there's this really vivid quote from the source video that captures this transition perfectly. They said Tesla has gone from planting a few seeds to realizing Elon's about to build an entire Amazon rainforest of robo-taxis. It's a huge mental shift, right? When that kind of exponential growth kicks in, one single dedicated Cybercab line could eventually surpass the company's entire global daily vehicle output today. But hey, the focus here isn't just on passengers. Let's shift gears to part 3, the semi-truck math and commercial logistics. The source notes that the Tesla Semi has officially moved out of its pilot phase and onto the high-volume production line at Giga Nevada. And the analysis calls this next financial breakdown for fleet operators bulletproof math. Check this out. If you run the exact same 435-mile route every single day, a traditional diesel truck like a Freightliner Cascadia costs about $358 a day to run. The electric Tesla Semi, just $111. That is a daily savings of $247 per truck, making it roughly 69% cheaper to run than diesel. Let's be real, in an industry like logistics where margins are famously razor-thin, cutting operational fuel costs by nearly 70% is an absolute game changer. Now watch how ridiculously fast this builds when you scale it up. $3 million. Yep, The math argues that a fleet owner operating just 50 trucks would save an estimated $3 million in annual operating costs simply by making the switch. With an economic advantage like that, the source argues this transition is virtually inevitable for logistics companies that are laser-focused on their bottom line. So we've got the autonomous software, the passenger cybercabs, and commercial freight logistics. Let's bring all of this together in our final piece, Part 4, the 2026 Catalyst Roadmap. This is where the source claims all these completely separate projects fuse into one singular unified vision. Just looking at this densely packed timeline reveals the sheer scale of these programs, all advancing simultaneously. Look at this. In Q2, we see Cybercab and semi-production ramps right alongside Robo-Taxi expansions. Then moving into Q3 and Q4, the roadmap lists the broader unsupervised FSD ramp and the Optimus Generation 3 humanoid robot. By 2026, the claim is that we are looking at a genuinely transformative convergence of autonomy, robotics, and energy platforms all coming together at exactly the same time. And there's actually even more in the pipeline backing this up. The source cites additional catalysts, like hitting 10 million cumulative vehicle deliveries, which creates this massive pool of potential software subscribers. There's also new megafactory work and the compounding advantages of their Cortex AI, the supercomputing brain powering all these autonomous systems. What really stands out here is the sheer coordination of this massive push across totally different sectors, leveraging the exact same core intelligence for cars, trucks, and robotics. All of this leads us to a pretty provocative final thought posed by the source. Do you truly understand what is about to be unleashed? Honestly, whether you completely agree with this highly ambitious timeline or not, the objective data presented, from the 10 billion miles of neural net training to the massive operational savings in freight, shows a company pushing super hard against the boundaries of what is possible. So think about it for a second. If even a fraction of this technological convergence lands on schedule by 2026, how fundamentally will our daily transport, logistics, and labor markets change? Let that sink in. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.